Me spoke to a friend, me walk. Man, no more dream, man, friend me. Mama, me Jimmy. Uko was so friend me. Man, no more dream, man, friend me. Brody, Messi, I boy, dear, what's it? Ma winning, drawing ton. Tin. Yeah, no one's I vagina. It is answer my vagina. To what the papa to put to manto. You pimpy, now every quarter so talk upon to la tememo. Yeah, papio. And one who doesn't hear me, oh, no, my bremenia. A man of Monsieur, man for me. Mama min Jimmy, Uko was one for me. A man of Monsieur, man for me. Mete papa, no don't have it. I see bed opa, a man forging a damn into Chile. Takradi, Munsabumania. This thing I must see about it. Both on our passenger, a craft on the western Monsari. Wrong half on the central. It's a male Fabaca, Gana for you, Namun somewhere. What do? Brother, many a group. My Juma Juana the Friday. Me, your capini berry, my Jimmy, I no complain. And can so to Amabo. Miss Remy Conongo, I bet if you wale me no me pano. As it got so gumano. Who me a dummy wiper? Who you miss go to have me waga? A man of Monsieur, man for me. Mama min Jimmy, Uko was one for me. A man of Monsieur, man for me. A man of Monsieur, man for me. Mama min Jimmy, Uko was one for me. A man of Monsieur, man for me.
Yay! Another day. We've started. Stress. Every day something happens. However, suddenly we're ready. It's always a shock when I get ready. Good evening, people. Today is October the 10th, 2018. So many things have happened today. I am so tired. I shouldn't be saying this, but I am. It has been so hectic. Life is so strange. However, when you do something that you love, you forget the tiredness the minute everything works well. People, you will not believe how hard it is to set up just before the show. However, there was an angel in this studio. She helped me. And so I am ready. Today, I have a guest, a very important guest. She's been here before. She's very knowledgeable in a lot of things. Today, we are going to talk about something which is a total bugbear. The thing about us in this country, UK, us, and when I say us, I mean black people, is that we, and I'm not talking about just black people, I'm talking about Africans, I'm talking about Caribbeans, I'm talking about Chinese, I'm talking about South Asians. A series of subtle things happen in our lives, and yet we say nothing. We are so determined to educate our children. We are so determined to feed our children. We are determined to them, and I say this determination for the majority of us, to look after our children, to keep them out of harm's way and out of trouble. That we are a little bit blinkered, in my view. This is what I think, and I am part of it. I do it too. We all do it. Now, because of it, subtle, dangerous things happen in our lives, and even when we are aware of it, we're not sure at what level that we should complain. People, shine your eye. We are all shining our eye. 2018, this is the time of realization, of action, of knowledge. And when you get knowledge, you have to use it. You do not keep knowledge to yourself. You have to use it. If it's good for you, it's good for your fellow man. The time has come for us to protect ourselves in different ways. And I say this in diverse ways, in various ways. So different, diverse, various all mean the same thing, but in different ways. Now, my guest is Miss Edith Baji. She is a union advisor. She is a principal officer within what used to be legal and professional services. She is very knowledgeable, and I don't say this lightly at all. She smiles a lot, she laughs a lot, but she's one of the world's most smartest people. Not that just I know, but a lot of people know. And even though people, the haters, know. Now, there's so much I can say about her, but she deals with employment rights, working conditions of school staff, and she deals with rights of pupils, working closely with organizers, particularly in equality organizers. You know, she does a lot of casework. She supports equality conferences. She provides learning opportunities and training to colleagues at all levels of the union in which she works, including local officers, workplace rep. Edith is particularly interested in mentoring and helping women from all walks of life better their situation in life, and is there to help young black people to get into the workforce and stay there, to do well there, and to amount to something. Now, people, today we're going to talk about, now the reason why I've given you this whole forward, as they say, is because we're going to talk about something that actually occurred. Welcome to the show, Edith.
Thank you very much. What a build-up. Oh, I have a lot to live up to.
Well, you're already living up to it. You are doing it. So it's not, if I was saying this is somebody and blah, blah, but I'm saying it about you. Sometimes the strangest thing about life is you do not even know your power. Until somebody says it.
Yeah.
You don't know your power. So, you know, that's where we're at. We don't know our power. Edith doesn't know her power, but I know her power. You know, I had such a stressful sorting out this whole video, Facebook, blah, 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 that I forgot to put my headphones on. And
you reminded me to put mine on, and you forgot
on.
To put your
own
on.
So immediately you spoke, I realized I couldn't even hear you. Yeah. Okay, now the reason why we are discussing this is because in this week, this is on Friday, somebody, a very smart journalist, and I'll tell you his name in a minute, he discovered an AQA. An AQA is an exam board book.
That's right.
And he discovered that they had put some derogatory, I don't know whether it's comments or...
Yes, they have put their logo on a GCSE textbook, a sociology textbook, which they now disavow, claim they have nothing to do with, and yet they've got their logo on it. But it's been authored by two psychologists or sociologists, we assume they're white. And that textbook contains some very derogatory statements about the family lives of African Caribbeans, Africans, Asians,
and Chinese.
Well, I include Chinese people in my description of Asians, but yes. And this was very luckily picked up by quite a few of our black educators,
Yes.
who immediately brought it to the attention of other black people on Twitter.
Yes.
And because of their efforts and their complaints to AQA and David Lammy and other MPs,
Picked up on
the
it.
textbook has been withdrawn.
Now, before we even go any further, I'd like you guys to know that AQA is an exam board that deals with, and in fact, they do mark some of the very important exams in this country. So that alone is a problem, because they have seen this, they have agreed that the book is acceptable, and they they have allowed it to be published. And so Hodder is the publishers. When it was brought to their attention what was in the book, they then said, well, they do not actually write the books, they just publish, and therefore they've pulled it from the shelves. I don't know if they've pulled it from the shelves or if they've just stopped publishing.
Stopped publishing it.
Yeah.
And they've stopped selling it. And it's currently under review.
Now, what has upset us is that in it's everything they've said about the Chinese, the South Asians, the Caribbeans, and Africans is derogatory, and it is a sweeping generalization. And with the Caribbean families, it says, in Caribbean families, which is
It would
page
be funny if it wasn't so sad.
It's page 94, and it says, in Caribbean families, when men and women live together, it's usually in cohabiting or common law relationships that reproduce the traditional patriarchal division of labor. And then it talks about how the men just go. They leave the women, and so basically they don't have family units. The family system is characterized by child shifting, of passing of children to other relatives or acquaintances if the parents find themselves unable to take care of them. As a result, multiple women are involved in childhood socialization. People on social media have called this racist. Now, I call it racist too. The fact that they say fathers and husbands are largely absent. Women assume the responsibility in childbearing when men and women live together. That is just so unacceptable. There are so many married people, married Caribbean families where the father is present. Now, if in some areas there are single mothers, that is not the norm. Now, even so, the history of the Caribbean families, where they were, I'm trying to find a careful word to describe, to wrench families apart, to keep the man, to sell him.
Absolutely. He had no, for want of a better word, ownership of his own family.
No.
His children belong to his master.
Yes.
To do with as the master pleases.
Yes.
So he was simply there to breed and to work to death. And that was his only purpose. Marriage, forming relationships with your wife, your partner, your children was completely discouraged. Now, when and the argument made by those who are very angry about this textbook is that it doesn't contextualize what's being said. Not only is it derogatory because even if 25% of African Caribbean households are led or headed by a woman, a single woman, that still leaves 75% of African Caribbean families that are two-parent families.
Indeed.
So you can't suggest that the norm is the minority. And this is what is so offensive. This is a book written by so-called scientists.
Yes.
Sociologists
Yes.
are supposed to be scientists.
Yes.
Remember the famous Maureen Lipman advert on television? You have an ology, you're a scientist. Right?
Yes, I remember that.
And scientists are supposed to base their conjecture, their opinions on evidence.
On evidence and fact.
Where's the evidence to support what's being said in this textbook?
Indeed. And also there is control. That's one of the things I was taught in school. If you're doing a scientific project, there has to be, this is the project, this is control. And so you compare it against something. Another thing about sociology is numbers. And so you have to have a demographic, and you have to go out there and do research.
Absolutely.
And come back. In fact, nobody came to ask me anything. I didn't see anything in the papers. I have not seen any evidence of anyone trying to find out anything about families or where we are, what the situation is. These are lazy. If they are sociologists, then they are very lazy people who are not up to the task. Now, studying sociology and actually bringing out sociological reports is supposed to be beneficial to the people that you are, telling. So I'm a little bit cross, although today I thought I will not be cross, and I'm just going to come out here and tell my people that one of the biggest things that is important for us to do is to be vigilant.
Absolutely. What's so worrying about this textbook? It's written for teenagers.
Yes.
It's written for 15, 16-year-olds. Now, it's probably easier for someone our age to challenge what we see written in a textbook. We have the maturity, we have the experience, we have more education than a 15, 16-year-old.
And we're bolder.
Quite.
We are bolder.
Now, the fear is that children, both black and white, reading this book will simply accept what's written in the text as truth because it's written in a textbook.
Indeed.
And they won't necessarily challenge the assumptions made in that book in the same way an adult would. What it does to black children, of course, is to be put through an education system that essentially devalues you, says that, everything negative can be associated with your race, your skin color. That's unacceptable.
Yes.
But it also says, it reinforces in white children this perception that they are superior to their black peers.
Straight away. The minute you are in a classroom and you are studying sociology is it's a serious subject. So all the children who are sitting there are being told that the white ones, the Caucasians, they are disciplined, they are in two-parent families, they are doing all the correct and acceptable things.
Yeah.
And then the Asian, this is the Chinese, what they said was...
that the women are subservient to the men in their families, that they're very patriarchal.
Yes.
What was it? Widows obey their sons.
Yes.
Or if they're not married, they obey their fathers. If they're married, they obey their husbands. Now, I don't know how many Chinese women these researchers have talked to, but if you know anything about the tiger mother, you know she's not taking her orders from anybody.
No. Now, the tiger mother, I don't even think they know about the tiger mother.
No.
Because these are two illiterates, and I want them to challenge me on that. who have sat down and written a book. Now, if I wrote a book, because of the fact that I am black, I may not even get a publisher to publish anything that I write. It's going to be a hard slog. And if they do publish it, there will be others out there poo-pooing it and saying what they like. However, these two people wrote a book loaded with lies. Page 94 is a fallacy. However, it is in schools. It is in schools where gullible children will be sitting there listening to this nonsense, and they will believe it.
Of course.
Of course. Now, the black children, this is the Caribbeans who are supposed to not have fathers and their fathers bugger off and all of that. They will be reading it too, and how they passed around, like a chessboard to other families, so their whole existence
and
is
even
pathetic.
if they are from single parent families, even if their mum is a single mother, why should they be made to feel inferior because of it?
No, yeah.
It's a consequence of circumstance. It's not something that is bound to happen to you because you're black. It's got nothing to do with your race.
Exactly. Now, one of the things which struck me is I immediately tried to find out when the book was written, because that also could be part of the problem. It could be that the book was written in 1948, and at the time everyone was married and it was unacceptable to be a single mother. However, this book was written in 2017. Yeah. Now, in 2017, 2018, the year 2000 onwards, and I'm not a sociologist, however, I did my research. A lot of families are one-parent families. It's either the man is looking after the kids or the mother is looking after the kids. Most people are divorced.
Exactly.
Now, this is not to say that most families are divorced, but divorce is not a stigma
Uncommon,
anymore.
no.
And divorce is not private to black families. It is across board.
Absolutely.
Even in Ghana, Africa, people are divorcing when it was unheard of. Because let us say that, and even in India, where people, arrange marriages, etc., people are divorcing. So the fact that they would just, stereotype or use prejudice and discrimination against a certain group of people, that is totally unacceptable. The reason for this show, before we carry on, is for people to understand that what we are really saying is that you have to look in the books that your children are bringing home. We need to read and see what they are being taught. Increasingly, with time, we are all getting educated. There was a time when it was only the privileged few who went to school. It's different now. Parents are reasonably educated enough to see people are part of their children's homework. Therefore, please, the reason for this radio show today is that we have to see what is happening out there in the books that the people are writing. And if you are unhappy or need to ask a question, you must. There is social media out there, and you can write it, you can tweet it, you can put it on Facebook. Others will see and contribute.
Great. Well, in a way, I think it's unfortunate that this text was published, but it's a really good way of teaching children. If you're a very good teacher, you can use it as a learning moment to teach children critical thinking skills, not to accept what they see written on the page as absolute truth or fact.
True.
Because we live in an age now where fake news
is everywhere. It's even in the textbook.
Absolutely.
It's in the textbook.
Everything is apparently fake because certain things that you should be able to take as fact aren't well established, because people don't understand the history of how things are established anymore. We don't teach history in the way we used to in schools. If you're going to tell children that about British history, you have to tell them not just about how Britain was an empire and all that wonderful stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to tell them how that empire was created, what that meant for those who were subjects of the empire.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't have that understanding, particularly black children, how are they supposed to have confidence in who they are, their value as human beings, their own history, to take pride in that
Mm-hmm.
history?
Mm-hmm. You see, this is why somebody wrote that if you don't know your history, you have no way of moving forward. You cannot move bravely into your future. And that's what it is. There are reasons why certain groups of people do certain things. Now, one of the things that you would think or say is, especially when this discussion came out in the office, everyone was talking about it, including the haters, the naysayers, and everyone else. And the issue was, how could this be said in 2018?
Yeah.
It can be said in 2018 because there are a lot of people in 2018 who haven't bothered to find out or to understand why people are how they are.
Yeah.
Now, these books are written to create and maintain the stereotype, the status quo, and forever a black girl laughs and she's being aggressive, and forever a black boy is supposed to be an athlete, and forever all of these things. It's continuous and it is being perpetrated, and it's now even being done subliminally. It's in textbooks. Mm-hmm. Look, one thing I always say now is we cannot continually be fighting. We cannot continually chain ourselves to railings. It's not happening anymore.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
I say we just stop relying on other people to write our history as black people, and we start writing these textbooks for ourselves.
Exactly. We have to start writing. Now, that takes me straight into David Lammy.
Yeah.
David Lammy has written a whole rebut. There's a whole rebuttal on his views about this book, how disturbed and dismayed he was. He wrote his history about how his father left him, his mother when he was the age of 12, and so he was born. He was from then on in a single mother household.
Yeah.
And he has grown up, and he's now
a very successful MP. Yeah.
And he was very instrumental in dealing with the Windrush.
Yes.
And he made an impassioned speech that moved the nation. He moved us.
Indeed.
He did. Now, David Lammy actually is interesting because we have another guy who is called Sean Bailey.
Yes.
Who is from the Conservative Party, and he is the
he's put his name forward to run as mayor in the next London mayor elections.
This man yesterday comes on air in public and says that one of his manifesto moves is against single mothers.
Indeed.
What is he talking about? What sort of... Now, this is where I have not had time because I'm dealing with this issue and I had work and other things to deal with. Then I could not go in there and check his background. Is he from a 2-parent family? I want someone to tell me. Can someone just check it, find out, and send me this message right now on Facebook? I need to know, or on the radio, wherever. Call. The number to call is 0203-735-8820 or 0203-286-0185. I want to know about Sean Headley, what his family situation was like. Where is he coming from into London mayor, and you want to come and fight single mothers?
Well, isn't it a typical argument by those on the right of politics that the world is a terrible place because of single mothers?
What have single mothers done to you? One of the things I need to find out, and I need people to understand, is it's not that I am for marriages breaking down or women having children out of wedlock or any of those things. But one of the major reasons why people divorce is over money. Mm-hmm. People are in marriages where they just cannot make it. They can't. They are working. And it's the poor people. They're working. They can't afford to look after the kids. And unfortunately, the men seem weaker. And so they get up and they leave. Now, when they
or
leave,
they beat the living daylights out of their partner, yes. Which is what leads to single motherhood on occasion.
Of course, because you call the police, they put them separate, he doesn't see the kids, etc., etc. Now, if the system is what is creating these single mothers, has anyone from the Conservative Party gone round to find out what the problems are and how to solve them? Has anyone gone into the homes to try and see how they can make the men stay? But I think that Sean Headley, in his rush to be the mayor and his determination and fight, he is forgetting that he is black. He is also forgetting that if I dig deep into his family, I may find some single mothers in there. He is forgetting that the majority of single mothers in London, their children are doing well. They go to school. They do get into university. Yes. Especially now that this Ghanaian boy has taken on scholarships for black children to be able to go to Oxford, which wasn't open to a lot of black people then. Especially now that children are being allowed into Cambridge. There are a lot of black girls in Cambridge University. Yeah. Especially now that there are young people trying their best in all the other universities, York, etc., all the Ivy League ones in this country, and they are coming out. Is the Conservative Party allowing these children to work? Because I know a lot of overqualified kids who can get jobs in the field of their education. They cannot get jobs. What is the Conservative Party trying to do about that? How very dare they? Oh. I should play some music.
Some water.
I should play some music and then we shall come back. I did promise myself not to get angry. I promised myself I was going to be calm. Edith said she was going to be, I don't know. What word did you use? You said, "Oh no, we're not going to be cross." We're going
to be chilled.
We're going to be very chilled. But you see, this discussion is doing my head in. It is doing my head in because it's like we are in a situation where we need to drum it into our people, especially ourselves. We all need to be vigilant and we all need to become aware that what's going on. For me, I don't read textbooks anymore because my children have finished school. But maybe we need to go back and have a look.
Well, quite. And we have to act as, the Sean Baileys of this world. I don't know what they think they'll achieve for black people by speaking the way they do. But they need to realise that when he's looked on the streets, it's not as a Tory MP or backbencher.
No.
He's just another black man.
The message I would like someone, whoever knows Sean Bailey, to give him is that when he gets out of his fancy car and he's on the train or the tube or even walking down his road, even if he lives in Chelsea or Kensington or any of these nice, beautiful, leafy suburbs, he should know that he is black. And there is nothing to show on his skin or his face or his shoe that he came from a 2-parent family and that he was Tory. If the police are on a rampage and are looking for a black man to beat, he will be the one. It's very, 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 very naughty.
So you don't cry. If we be having food today, I go sky. Girl, it be true what they talk me, I know they lie you. Yeah. If you leave me today, girl, I don't die. If you think I gon' leave you, God forbid, yeah. If you leave me, die with this, yeah. You dey show me things I can't resist, yeah. I go mention your name to the whole wide world. It be you that give me joy, Angela.
Kill beats, let's go.
Yep, we're back. We just finished. That was Angela by Kwame Eugene. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. Kwame Eugene has hit the waves with hip life. He's a star. Okay, now I haven't yet told you what they said about us Africans in the diaspora. So I leave Edith to tell you exactly what was said about us.
As it's not even worthy of repeating. It's only 3 lines. That's what the whole continent of Africa apparently deserves. and it essentially says that a husband who is unhappy with his wife can replace her.
Which is so stupid. I mean, how many African families do they know? I mean, but you see, this stereotype, this is how it is. That's the thing about life, though. You may think that you are from a solid background. You are from a family where everyone is an achiever. You are reasonably educated or even overeducated. And yet you work somewhere where they don't see that. All they see is your color.
Yeah.
You may even speak better English than some of them, and yet they disregard it.
Absolutely.
They don't care. They do not know that your parents may have master's degrees. You know, you are third generation or fourth generation educated.
No.
Some of these people are children of dustmen, sub farmers.
But that's the benefit of being in a majority, isn't it? It's you belong to a dominant majority. You come to the world, your face on the world is, I'm not a member of a group, I'm an individual.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to us to find out what you're about and who you are. When you're a member of a marginalized group, a minority,
Yep.
you're not an individual. You're like the Borg from Star Trek. you have some sort of collective mind,
Yeah.
and you're just you're a cardboard cutout.
Oh yeah.
People make us all sorts of assumptions
about you. But it could be that
and
it's
they
the
think you
things
fit
they
that
read.
Stereotype. Yeah.
Yes, it's the things they read, the things they're
The things
taught.
that people are usually positive ones.
Of course.
But the stereotypes that are attached to marginalized minority groups are always invariably negative.
So that's what it is. That's what is called white privilege.
Absolutely correct. That's right. That's right. But the thing is, whilst most white people are prepared to accept that marginalized groups are disadvantaged by negative stereotype, they're less willing to accept that they benefit from being white.
The thing is, one of the things which bothers me is the fact that we have situations where even if black people are actually fighting for a cause, or, you know, is it, okay, so we're called the minority. So if you're fighting
we are in this country, yes.
We are. So if you're fighting for a cause, if you're lucky enough to have a few white people, a lot of white people, or, you know, fraction of white people joining you to fight the cause, then you have sympathy. Is it?
Yeah, I wonder whether anyone can ever really be on your side if they haven't walked in your shoes, though. Yes, of course we have to embrace there are white people who are advocates for change, who support black people. And I used to believe that the trade union movement was actually a good force for that, full of people who wanted equality in society, wanted to promote the interests of marginalized groups. But as I've gotten older, I realized that really you can't tell that whether someone is a friend or foe simply by their political allegiances and what they say they believe in. I've met people who vote Tory, have voted Tory all their lives, and yet are more, I think, advocates of change and supporters of
the
marginalized groups than people who claim to be liberal and on the left of politics.
I agree with you because, but I kind of think that it's because some of the people who have voted Tory all their lives and are in that kind of world, they're more exposed to the outside world in a more open-minded way, and so they see you as another human being. As to whether they like you or not is a different matter, but they see you, and if the cause is this is unfair, they will, back you all the way. And that's the thing. But I think, as you said previously, we need to tell our own story.
Yes.
We desperately need to tell our own story. We've got authors, we've got playwrights, we've got filmmakers, but we're always on the fringes, though.
Yes, because in the past we haven't been able to have our voices heard. Who owns the publishing companies? Not us. So when we want our voices heard, it's unlikely to be published. But the great thing about the technological world we're living in now is that social media is now such a force for democratization. People individuals can be publishers simply by putting stuff on YouTube. Blogging. They don't need anyone's permission. They can just put their ideas, and you see it a lot, particularly from African Americans, who I think are always ahead. Ahead. You if you go on YouTube, you will see so many putting out so many videos of alternative histories, giving a different perspective on African history, on African Caribbean history. You don't have to rely on these textbooks. And I mean, here in the UK, you've got Akala doing great things, trying to educate black people about their own history. These are the people we should be directing our children to, not these AQA textbooks.
Okay, well, our children need to pass their exams, so they need to read the AQA textbooks. However, this is where our vigilance should be serious, because even though we need to teach our children our own histories, even here in this country, one of the most important and strange things is that the correct and true history of how this country was built is never discussed. So I always know, and I always view it, and people quote me, that it is the illiterates mostly who are racist, because they don't know what the foreigners who they hate have done for them, who built this, that song, we built this city. And we didn't build it on rock and roll. We built this city with sweat.
I'm going to take a different view from that, if I may. It's, yes, people who are less educated, say, on the fringes of society, are, yes, absolutely, they're prejudiced, they're racist, but they don't have power. It's actually the middle and upper class people who not only have prejudice, but they have the power to enforce that prejudice and to act on that prejudice. I think someone described structural racism as prejudice plus power, and the people who exercise that aren't the English Defence League who are shouting out with you Muslims, get out of our country, you N-words. It's the people in Parliament who are giving effect to these laws that disadvantage minorities and maintain the status quo.
People, out of misinformation, out of a lie, out of disrespect, out of prejudice, out of racism, we found page 94 of that sociological textbook. I don't want to advertise the people. That's why we're not mentioning their names. We're not even mentioning the name of the book. But if your child is in secondary school, is doing sociology, check the book and go to page 94 and see what's written there. If it is that sort of textbook, take it back to the school and say, I have issue with what's written in there. People, believe me, you have power. It is not the power to go and beat someone or attack someone or be nasty to someone, but it is the power to educate your own child. If your child is in a school and is being taught wrongly, you have the power to say so. So, this is what we're about. Now, we want you all to become so vigilant that you can say if something is wrong. One of the things that also concerns me is that if you think that you can contribute to your child or someone else's child, or you can contribute to something to teach your history or the history as you know it, and or to do something, think about it. Have a chat with someone and try and do something, because
even talk to your child about your own background and history. I used to love it when my mum would talk to me about she's Ashanti, and she would tell me about all the Ashanti folklore. These are things that I wouldn't hear at school. Why would I?
Yeah. Nobody's going to tell you.
It would fill me with such pride when she talk about women like Yasantua,
yes,
and great women in Ashanti history.
Yes.
These are the sorts of things that spend a bit of time teaching your children if you're in that position.
Page 94 of the book really has given a very wrong, all the things that it said, and African Caribbeans and Africans and Chinese and that, they are telling you that this is your culture or this is your tradition, which is wrong.
Exactly.
And it is so derogatory and it is so wrong. Now, people, exactly as Edith said, I tell my children about my tribes. I have several. I come a mongrel. I come from several tribes. And I say it all. My grandmother, my this, my that, they know the story. I was told my story. And I feed it on. If you can see me on Facebook right now, I wear my beads. People, that is where I come from. This is my identity. It's on my arm, on my wrist. I've got some on my feet. That's what we do. When I come in here, I've got my Afro wig on because I'm an African. I am descendant from the Afro people. So I wear my wig. I am contributing. I am telling you people that this is who I am. I know who I am. You have to know who you are. You have to be proud. There was a time when you go to school and they laugh at you. I was telling you, I was singing that song to you.
Yeah.
And they laugh at you and they tease you. If you have an African name, you're dead.
Yes. How true. I'm sure we all have painful memories.
Painful memories. Listen to me. The show is about to end. I only have 32 minutes, 30 seconds. And I want to say thank you to all who listened. I like to say thank you to all the people who are busy arguing and calling somebody an idiot. I think they're calling the Conservative man an idiot. Do you want to say bye-bye? Do you want to say something?
Yes, I'd just like to send a quick plea to black educators out there. Akala used to mention that when he was young, he went to a school, a black Pan-African school where they taught black history. Black educators out there, there's a real opportunity for you to set up these schools, whether online or through some other means. Please, please provide our black children with an alternative narrative, because what's being peddled is demeaning and it's bad for their development.
People, we're off air, but we're on Facebook still. And so, as Edith said, Edith, I want to thank you for coming. I don't know how. I'm so grateful that you came. I'm glad that you came. You've given we've both gone at it. Hammer and tongue.
Without getting too mad.
Yeah, we didn't get mad. We're cool. But basically, the point is that educators out there, authors out there, writers out there, anybody who's out there, if you can contribute, if you know your history, please tell your children, tell your children's friends, write it down. Because they do say we don't read. So they can be as horrible about us, and it's in the book, and we are not reading it. So they are just saying it. Let us shame them to realize that we do read. We do read better than them. We can write. We can write better than them. Look, if you're an African from Africa, educated in Africa, and you come to this country and you can speak in English to someone when you were not brought up in speaking English, you've done really well. I would like you then to be brave enough to write down your history in case you die here, so that your children will know about you. They will know your story. You cannot allow other people to tell your story. You cannot take on someone's story. I was watching telly the other day, and I saw how they're saying that, classical music is now getting mainstream, and, ballet is getting mainstream, and so now they're making it in such a way that they are infusing other cultures into ballet. People, we do have our own dances. You need to teach your children them. You cannot take on somebody's thing, and at the end of the day, they'll watch you and think, ugh, what is that? Come on. Let us help ourselves.
Let's stop being poor imitations of someone else.
Exactly. To be a poor imitation is just so untoward. Yeah. We have to be ourselves, and we have to learn to appreciate who we are. There is a reason for us being black. There must be. It beats my mind sometimes what is the reason for us to be so different? And then because of that, the person standing next to you is another color, so they feel superior, and they beat you and do all sorts of horrible things to you. Why? People, we need to move away, and it's not that we need to make them allow us to move away. We need to make them see that we are also human beings, and we are also amounting to something. Please help me to help you. Thank you very much. Today is another day. Next week, we come with a happier topic, I hope. I do love you all, especially my listeners, my diehard listeners, but in different ways. All of you, I love you, but in different ways. Thank you. Bye-bye.